right, it says I'm live. I'm going to give it a couple of moments to kick on here. Okay, looks like it is running. Let me know if you guys can see me and hear me if you don't mind. Pete, Mateo, Dan, good to see you. I don't know if all of you guys are here. Pete, looks like you're here. Loud and clear. Fantastic. Krabby Turtle, good to see you as well. What's going on, guys? How you been? We'll wait for a couple more people to join up here. Hopefully, we'll get a little bit of a crowd here tonight. I was going to do it Sunday, and then I realized that probably wouldn't be a very good idea, seeing as how it was Super Bowl and all. Some people are into that sort of thing. Ohio, good to see you, man. Appreciate it. Well, I got to tell you, a couple of days ago, I was in a T-shirt. Actually, I'm in a T-shirt right now, but it's just warm in the house. But today there's snow on the ground. So a Kansas winter, it never fails. Absolutely amazing. Hopefully everybody else is doing well. Pete didn't watch the bowl. I really honestly didn't either. I'm not a big sports ball guy, but I kind of paid attention to the score and got an idea of how things were going. And I knew immediately that the Chiefs had won because everywhere around me, there were explosions all over the place. It sounded like a battleground for a little while. Everybody here in Chiefs Kingdom gets pretty worked up. I could hear screams all across the city. So that was pretty fun. I was pretty excited about that, at least in terms of supporting the city and that sort of thing, even though, again, I'm not really a football guy. Dan, 2 inches of snow over a glaze of ice. Yeah, that's not good. The snow, I don't mind snow. That's not a big deal. The ice gets a little bit more challenging, as we all know, when we're driving. So definitely be careful of that. But I would take all of it as long as nobody else was out there driving. It was only me. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So Mateo, good to see you, man. Good to see you. It's been a long time. I hope you're well, my friend. Dan, take cover. Yeah. There were unfortunate events at the parade. I had some family that was not entirely too far away from that. I'm glad they were safe, but it's unfortunate that things like that happen. It really is unfortunate. It made Kansas City not look altogether too good, unfortunately. Mateo had 60-degree weather just a few days ago. Got snow now. Yeah, I wonder if you and I are relatively close, perhaps, because it was exactly the same here. So it's pretty chilly out there. But I'm a winter kid. I like the cold. I have no problem with that. That's why, again, I'm in a T-shirt right now, and I'm perfectly comfortable. So not too big of a deal there. Pete, bad people do bad things. That will never change. You're not wrong, and that's why we're here, right? That's why we do what we do, because we understand that. We know that you can't carry a cop in your back pocket, and it doesn't matter how many were around. And I'll tell you what, there were a lot of police around. It was all over the place. I mean, I got a lot of great pictures of downtown. I've got family that kind of overlooks downtown. They had a good vantage point, and I mean, you should have seen even the highways and the bridges going into downtown. People were just making up parking spots wherever. I mean, kind of like just pulling over. It was kind of like a scene out of an apocalypse movie. People were just kind of pulling their cars over to the side, turning them off, and walking towards downtown. It was very strange. Not the first time we've seen that, of course. But yeah, you're exactly right. Bad people do bad things, unfortunately. Mateo, Louisville, Kentucky. I've been there many a time. What a great part of the country. I love the South. I truly do. I lived in Birmingham for a while. This was back when I was a kid, essentially. But I had a lot of great experiences there. So glad to be back in Kansas. But it's a great part of the country. So anyway, what's going on gun-wise with all of you guys? SHOT Show's over, and have you guys started figuring out some things that you got your eye on? Anybody pick up anything new lately? I'm curious about that, of course. Dan, the 21 gun salute was for Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh. I will tell you, a lot of people around here are a little bit tired of that. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but I think we're sort of over Taylor a little bit, to be honest with you. Steve B, good to see you, man. Funny how no one will call it a gang problem. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard a lot of different things, and you have to question. I started seeing things on Instagram, like people posting various things, and it didn't look at all accurate based upon the actual scene there. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt, unfortunately. So who knows? Who knows? I'm sure we'll find out more at some point in time. Mateo bought a new Colt King Cobra. Congratulations. That's awesome, man. Have you shot it yet? I'd be curious to know about that. Looney Tune, good to see you. Met someone to buy a Staccato P today as he let me shoot it before buying. I passed, but threw him $20 for meeting me. I feel like there's some Stockholm syndrome going on based off the price. Yeah, that was very nice of you, by the way, to give him some money. People don't normally do that, so that was very gentlemanly of you. Staccato P, wonderful gun. It's probably my favorite Staccato, but yeah, it's sticker shock, even used. They're expensive. Staccatos command a price, and I think partly because 2011s, as you guys know, are just a really hot item right now. They've been hot for, what would you say, probably 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. Just about every time I turn on YouTube, at least on the KS channel, which is basically exclusively guns, there is always at least one 2011 video or something regarding 2011. So I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon, but hopefully you'll find something at some point in time. Mateo, want the new Diamondback revolver. Now that one's a new one on me. Maybe I saw it on a SHOT Show on some of the coverage there perhaps, but I'm not 100% sure, but you've got me curious about that. I'll have to do a little bit of research after this and see that. You've piqued my curiosity there. Ohio, I'm waiting for the Turkish Browning BDA clones to come out. Which one's the BDA? Is that like the Beretta 80 series, like the 84, like the Cheetahs? I feel like those were the BDAs. If that's the case, there are several clones out there already. The T-Sauce Fatih and the what's the other one? Is it a Gearson? I want to say the Gearson MC14, something like that. You might check those out. The MC14 T, I think it is. That one's actually a Beretta 86 clone. It's got the flip barrel on it. I've got one. They're inexpensive. You can pick them up for almost nothing, and it's good. It's not great. It's had some bobbles. It's nothing like the Beretta 86 in terms of reliability, but to get a feel for it, it can be kind of fun. Krabby Turtle talking to Mateo. Yeah, congrats for sure. So Mateo, yes, it was a factory conversion from DASA to DAO. Took it out today for more range time. Nicely done. Nicely done. That's really cool. So DAO, man, very cool. Good looking snubby. Has a later option for a 9mm conversion cylinder. Now, see, you piqued my interest a little bit. I actually kind of like 9mm revolvers just for the fun of it. Obviously, a 357 or something would be much more practical if you're going to have that form factor for defensive purposes. But just for plinking, a 9mm actually is a lot of fun. I don't like messing with the moon clips very much, but I'll make that sacrifice. But that's pretty cool. So Scott, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Hey, back to you, my friend. Mateo, yeah, the tip up is the MC14T. So I actually got that right. Hey, the first time for everything. So I think it's a gray one. I mean, nothing special by any means, but it is fun. And that T-Sauce Fatigue, it's been 100% reliable. And again, at probably $400 or less. You can walk into those pretty cheap. You could probably find used ones out there as well. So if you want kind of that Beretta vibe, that Cheetah vibe, and you don't want to pay the Cheetah money because Cheetahs are expensive, especially good quality ones, good condition ones. So if you want that idea, but not break the bank, there's some good options out there for sure. So hopefully BDA, let's say Ohio, 84 with closed slide. I have the Fatigue, but haven't seen the Gearson. Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to see a BDA clone, but again, I would imagine it's very similar to the Fatigue, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Fatigue, because it's not Faith. So I think it's Fatigue. Ohio, I wanted the BDA since 1981. Yeah, Yeah, that's cool. They're neat, man. I've seen a couple of really good looking ones. I think I bid on one a few years ago that was in very, very good condition. I lost. I mean, it went for over $1,000, I want to say. And I don't get me wrong, I've spent that on a couple of cheetahs, but I couldn't justify it, unfortunately. I really couldn't. Dan, 9mm hotter than a 38 in a revolver. You guys weigh in on that. I don't think so. I think a 38 would be a little bit more powerful than a 9, but I could be wrong. I'm not a ballistics guy, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. But Dan, good question though. All right, Scott, already came across a video on the new H9. It was getting sent back because it was keyholing at 5 yards. Oof. Scott, will you send me a link to that if you get a chance? That would be really helpful. I'd be curious about that. Who did I watch? Was it James Reeves? I never is the firearm blog guy. He did a 1,020 round burn down of it, and he had a couple of issues with his. I think some of them were teething issues. Maybe some might have been ammo issues. Who knows? Obviously, there are a lot of variables with that, but he had a couple of issues. I will tell you, that's not going to stop me. I will get a Daniel Defense H9. I'm on the list for it. I'm just kind of waiting for our distributors to hopefully pony up for one because I really want one. As you guys know, I've got a connection with the Hudson H9, of course. You can dig back in my video library for that. But because of that, I really want to revisit it, but I want one that works because my Hudson absolutely did not work at all. So Scott, yeah, good. Thanks for the info on that. That's cool. Mateo, plus P will always have more velocity, but 38 can run 150 and heavier in plus P. Okay, there you go. There you go. I'm glad we have some ballistic experts in here because again, I am absolutely not. Let's see. Ohio, Dan, yes, a 9mm is a better snubby round than the current 38 SP loads. Huh. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I guess they've been making 9mm for really short barrels for a while now. I mean, if they're going to have 9mm that's successful in something like a SIG P365, then it should perform reasonably well out of a 2-inch barrel on a revolver. So I probably would still opt for 357/38 over 9 for a defensive gun, but maybe a backup gun, a 9mm might not be too bad at all because you can get some pretty light ones like the is it the Ruger LCR in 9mm? A pretty light revolver and pretty small too, so that might be a pretty practical backup. Let's see here. Got to get caught up. Scott 79 Browning BDAs are nice. Yeah. The Armsmen. Great to see you as well, my friend. Yeah. You know, we've been doing this for a little while now. Relatively small gathering of like-minded people. I do hope that we'll get some more people being involved. And Friday night's probably not the best night to do it. It just happens to be what works out for my schedule right now. But I want to do more of these types of things. I'm trying to kind of get back into the YouTube scene at least a little bit. But anyways, we're starting with the live streams. Plus, I get to talk to you guys, and that means a lot to me. So I'm glad we're doing this again. It is a lot of fun for sure. Pistol Pete, 38 Super is a fun round. Switch a barrel and a 9mm 1911, and you can make it happen. Nice. Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Pete. I've never shot a 38 Super. I've shot a lot of calibers, but that is not one of them, at least not that I can recall. I would err on the side of I haven't, but I would like to try at some point in time. I've got a couple of customers at Centerfire that shoot 38 Super with some frequency. I could probably borrow one or just kind of shoot one a little bit when they're there, but I'd like to try at some point in time. Let's see. Ohio, 38 bullet design is in the Stone Age compared to the 9mm. Yeah, I would believe that. I would definitely believe that. They work pretty hard on 9mm just because it's such a popular round, right? I mean, I would say we probably at Centerfire, I'd say 95% of the sales, at least handgun related, are all 9mm. That's just what people want, right? It's probably the most affordable aside from 22. So, and it's readily available. It's on the shelves. The prices are still pretty high as opposed to 3 years ago. I wish they would come down. They haven't yet, but yeah, I believe that, Ohio. Steve B, you would like my M1917, a 45 ACP revolver. Yes, I would like that. That would be a lot of fun. And you don't have to use moon clips, but take a rod to knock the empties out. All right, fair enough. Yeah. There's and the number's eluding me right now. There is a Smith 45 revolver that I would like to get at some point in time. And I've bid on a couple and I've lost out. I just haven't been committed very much to it, but I would like to do that at some point in time. The only problem is you can't really suppress it or suppress it reasonably well. And I'm pretty into suppressing things when I have that option. I picked up an Archon Type B. I'm kind of revisiting some old guns that I did on the channel, and the Archon was number one. I loved that gun. That was so much fun. So I had to repick that up, and I just got a threaded barrel for it and took it out to the range and shot it. And it was awesome. It loved being suppressed, which is great because I've got a Glock 19X and I've run it suppressed. It has problems every other round, probably. And Glocks are pretty notorious for not being very suppressible. And it really depends on the gun. Some guns run fine and some just are epic disasters. And so mine is an epic disaster, unfortunately. And I've tried different springs, different barrels. I've got plenty of different threaded barrels to try. I've done all the problem solving that I think I can. And it will run as long as I'm not holding the trigger back and going for a reset. If I'm just slapping the trigger, it will pretty much run, but that's not how I prefer to shoot. So sometimes I'll slap a suppressor on the 19X just because it kind of looks cool and it's kind of a neat demo gun at centerfire, but that's about it. So I probably won't suppress it anymore or shoot it suppressed anymore anyway. Let's see. Dan O'Neill, SWCHP still works. You're going to have to tell me a little bit more about that, Dan. I'm not 100% sure what that one is. Mateo, if the cylinders are generous, you can run 38 Super and a 357 mag revolver. Nice. That's pretty cool. I had no idea. Let's see. You run 38 Super in your Python. Okay, cool. Let's see. Mateo 38 is as updated as 9mm. Okay. Good to know as well. Good to know. Yeah, I don't have enough experience with revolver rounds. I don't really keep up on that very much. So that's helpful. Scott, sent to you on Instagram. Thanks, sir. Appreciate you. Ohio, work stupid early in the morning, so Friday and Saturday nights work best for me. Good to know. Yeah, right now, that's what works best for me. I'd like to get back to midweek if at all possible, but right now, just not happening. So, Mateo, they are nice. 38 Super can be run as hot as upper mid-level 357 SIG. Okay, nice. Let's see. Scott 79, 9mm maximum. Okay. Mateo Smith Model 25. That does sound familiar. That is probably it. I would say that. I mean, because that is a 45 ACP. I would imagine that's the one. Scott 79. They made some Smith & Wesson victories in 45 ACP. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Interesting. Huh. Okay. Cool. Pistol Pete CC75 is a great suppressor host. Yes, I would agree with that. I had the PO1 and the SPO1 tacticals, those urban gray ones. God, I wish I still had those. Sadly, I don't. But I ran both of them suppressed, and they ran them like champs. They were fine. They got pretty dirty, but as most guns will when they're suppressed. But yeah, they ran them very well. In fact, the Glock and I think the Steyr M9 are about the only two that really have given me a lot of grief trying to run suppressed. Maybe it's an Austrian thing. I don't know. You guys tell me. Let's see. Safe challenge. Got out my Smith & Wesson. This is Dan O'Neill. Got out my Smith & Wesson 4-inch 44 special SS pre-lock, so stainless steel pre-lock. M624, a pre-mint gun or I'm not 100% sure. 44 special mint gun worked over by Ron Power, great rare Smith & Wesson. Okay, fair enough. I'm not familiar with Ron Power. Is that I'm assuming a famous gunsmith? Is he at Smith & Wesson or outside of it? I'd be curious to know. Looney Tune, have you shot the platypus? No, I have not. I have not seen one in person. I would really like to. I think it'd be fun to get one. I think it'd be fun to design one from the ground up and try that out. But once again, it's one of those things where it's like, you got to part with money and wait for whatever 6-8 weeks, something like that. And I've just got some other things that are a little bit higher on the list, but the platypus is on there. I think it would be fun to try. And a Glock fed magazine 2011 I think that's pretty cool. So, and I haven't really seen many people complain about those yet. So hopefully that's a good sign for the platypus. Scott 79 still on the hunt for a Webley and 455. Okay. All right. Oh, that'll be fun, man. I hope you get it. I really do. Steve B, both Smith & Wesson and Colt made the M1917. I have one of each. Just bought the Smith last year. Nice, man. That's cool. That's very cool. I mean, you've got a pretty good collection going on there, Steve. Let's see. Scott, Colt Commando is in the 45 ACP. Yeah. Yep, that's right. I also really like the Delta Elite. I know that's 10 millimeter. I'm totally changing the topic a little bit, but I always liked the Delta Elite. I always thought that was a really cool gun. I've never had one, but I think they're pretty cool. Mateo, speaking of Glock, I picked up the G25. Yes, that's awesome. I have one as well. I love it. It's a 380, right? Not the most practical gun by most people's standards, but I like mine. I like it a lot. In fact, I've shared it with a few of the guys at Centerfire that typically, first of all, are very skilled shooters and typically run, of course, 9 millimeter or better. And they had a lot of fun as well. They were pleasantly surprised, and they're usually pretty skeptical of 380, like most people are. 380 gets a really bad rap, and that drives me nuts. But I like the G25. I like the G28 as well. But that G25, man, a Glock 19 size, well, a Glock 19 in 380. I just think that's so cool. I'm kind of nerding out a little bit, but Mateo, you're speaking my language right now. Ohio Crucifer, current Smith & Wesson 25 is a 45 Colt. Old school 25s came in both flavors. Okay, fair enough. I wonder if there's another model. And I'd have to look. Maybe it's like 645 or something like that. I forget. But there's one I feel like that's relatively current. It might not be current production, but relatively current. That is 45 ACP. Ohio, Dan O'Neill always wanted a mountain gun, 44. Let's see, Pistol Pete. M&P 2.0 45 is a good suppressor host as well, and subsonic with standard ammo. Okay, very good. Yeah, I wonder, Pete, if that's just the design of the Glock. What a lot of people have problems with when they suppress, and I've seen it too on mine, when you pull the trigger and if you hold it back, like we oftentimes do because we want to release on reset and we've kind of trained that way, what have you. So if you're holding that back and you're just shooting at a slow pace, your slide won't come all the way back into battery. It'll come right up to about the 98th or 99th percent back into battery, but it won't quite be there. And then what oftentimes happens, you let off on the trigger and the slide goes home. So it does go into battery. However, the next problem is you pull that trigger again, it's a click, no bang. And I've seen that on mine multiple times. And a couple of times I've just seen it simply not go into battery regardless. But oftentimes it's because of that, which tells me the way they've constructed the trigger assembly and how it interacts with everything with the slide, like the safety plunger and everything else. I think tolerance-wise, perhaps it's just not able to completely perform all of its functions with that pressure dynamic change from the suppressor. So it's just not doing its job properly. And I've tested with 20-pound recoil springs in that, the factory's 18. So I did 20 and I still was not able to get it to work. A 16-pound, of course, wouldn't work either. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we probably tested over several hundred rounds and we all got kind of tired of it. So again, it'll be relegated to a demo gun that we can show piston interaction and the Nielsen device and all of that without actually doing any shooting with it at all. So it'll be on the counter looking pretty, and that's about all it's going to do at this point in time. So I'll run the Archon, and I've got a couple of HKs that I run suppressed, so not a big deal at all. Let's see. Dan O'Neill, Mountain Gun, lightweight barrel. Ron is a longtime Smith & Wesson gunsmith, match shooter. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. Oh, good to know. Good to know. That's really, really cool. Very cool. Mateo, I've been talking to Colt about doing a limited run of Anacondas in 45 Colt. Nice. I wish they would do a 45 ACP, but that would be cool. The Anaconda, I don't know. I think that's the coolest one of the bunch. That it's my favorite. Even going back to, I mean, I forget when they came out, but I was relatively young and looking at gun magazines and everything. Anytime that Anaconda came on, I was just like, man, that's such a cool looking gun. So cool. Let's see. Let's see. Scott 79. I came across the Smith & Wesson 3rd Gen 1096. Wow, and 10 millimeter. 10 millimeter version. It was pricey. Yeah, if it's in good condition. Those older semi-auto Smiths, if they are in good condition, there is a huge collector market for those. It's probably not as rabid as SIG fans, and I'm one of them, by the way. SIG fans are fanatical, but and again, I am too. But yeah, Smith. I mean, if it's in good condition, they command a pretty healthy amount of money. Was it the 4506? I saw one of those a few months ago in Gunbroker, and I think it went for like $1,400. And I mean, it wasn't anything special. It was just in phenomenal condition, almost like it had never come out of the box before. And so people, they'll pay for it for sure. Pistol P looking at the Delta Elite, then put it down to buy a Dan Wesson RZ10. I'm assuming that's Dan Wesson RZ10. Fair enough. Delta Elite's pretty cool though. It's got a kind of a neat history, you know, going back as far as it does with the 10 millimeter. I don't know. I think it's just a cool gun. I really do. Mateo, with the right powders, you can hit 1080 FPS from a 3.8 inch barrel with a 380. There you go. Yeah, like I said, I have no issue with 380. I don't mind a 380 whatsoever. People have been using it, well, here and in Europe for a very, very long time. So there's nothing wrong with a 380. And also, they can just be a lot of fun to shoot too. And that 25 is a hoot, man. It really is. Let's see. Scott 79. It's hard to keep the Smith & Wesson models straight because there's so many of them. So, and you probably already know this, but Lucky Gunner, the website, just type in Google Lucky Gunner Smith or Smith & Wesson, however you want to do it. And you'll go to a reference page from, I think it's luckygunner.com or something like that. And they have all of them. They have all of the models, all of the generations, how it all breaks down and everything. It's extremely helpful, especially if you're on Gunbroker and you're looking at different models and you're not quite sure, first, which generation, whether it's double stack, single stack, all the different variations, whether it's there were some that had decockers, believe it or not, kind of like SIG, like the 226, that sort of thing. There were some pretty odd models that they made, but yeah, that reference guide should help quite a bit. So if you're curious, take a look at that. Lucky Gunner Smith & Wesson. Scott 79. I would stay away from the earlier Delta Elites because they were prone to frame cracking. Oof. Because they weren't beefy enough in certain spots for 10 millimeter. So yeah, that it might be kind of a safe queen. But again, cool factor if nothing else. But yeah, that's good to know. And I feel like I've heard that before. Maybe, I don't know. And that would be such a shame if you were out there shooting and then all of a sudden your frame cracks. Oof. Mateo, I can attest to breaking a Delta on a hot 10 millimeter. Oh man, geez, that's not good. Mateo, the Anaconda was released in 45 Colt back in the 90s. Okay, how far back does the Anaconda go? How far back does the Snake series go with Colt in general? I feel like, is it the 70s or 80s? I mean, I feel like it goes back quite a ways. I'd be curious to know about that. Scott 79, my 4006 TSW. So that's going to be a 40 Smith & Wesson, and the TSW, those go for really, really big dollars, just so you know. Those, any of the TSW models, which are the tactical Smith & Wesson models, for anyone who is not quite sure what that is, has more than doubled in price in the last 3 years because it has the CHP serial number on it. Yeah, people pay tons of money for those TSWs, man. They really do. I've seen a couple cool ones. In fact, I think it was a 3913, I think, TSW. which is pretty rare. And it was in really good condition. I don't know. I didn't really follow it, but I'm sure it probably went for $1,500, $2,000, something like that, which is bonkers money for a Smith semi-auto. I don't know if you've ever looked at some of those performance center versions, especially the longer slide ones, but those can go for $25,000 to $5,000, depending on the condition, depending on the model. I mean, people really pay for those, especially if they're in great condition. I would love to shoot one of those. I think that would be so much fun. I love the old Smiths, but I have never seen one come across my plate, unfortunately. Looney Tune picked up a Shadow 2 compact today. Congratulations. That's awesome. Hopefully it lives up to the hype this weekend. Definitely feels good. You know what? Keep me posted. I think you're going to enjoy it. I've had a lot of fun with mine. It's been great, reliable, haven't had any issues or anything like that. That's straight scoop. Obviously, I would tell you if it had issues. I don't care if it came from CZ or whomever. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. But congratulations either way. That's really, really cool. Pistol Pete, yeah, also saying the same thing. Cool. Scott 79, Smith & Wesson did some. I think they were called Palmetto guns, where they had a mismatched cylinder and frames. Pretty cool, very, very pricey, highly collectible. Interesting. I've never heard of that before. Palmetto guns. I'll do a little bit of research on that. You've piqued my curiosity. You guys teach me things all the time. That's just awesome. And my wallet hates all of you for it. J Rob, I have a Smith & Wesson 1006 1006 with the decocker. They made one with a decocker. I didn't know that on the 10 millimeter version. That's really, really cool. Interesting. Okay. I think, let's see, what was the one it was the 5928, I think, was one of the decocker ones. That was your 5906, but it was just the decocker model. And they probably made more of those than any of the other ones, but they still, I mean, if you find a good condition one, they can still go for $1,000 anyway. Yeah, they are definitely collectible for sure. But yeah, 1006 with a decocker. Very, very cool. Scott 79, pretty sure the snake guns go back to the 70s. That would make sense. Mateo, back to the 50s with the Python. I had no idea. I didn't know it went back quite that far. Okay. We're all getting dated now at this point in time, just so you know. I mean, put that into perspective. It's been, almost 70, 75 years. That's incredible. Steve B, Looney Tunes, it will. I've had mine for 3 weeks now. We're talking about the Shadow 2 compact. It's an ammo eater. I took 300 rounds the first trip to the range and 400 the second. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Yeah, they are fun, man. I mean, that's just like me the first time I shot the Shadow 2. I mean, I fell in love instantly. I really did. Ohio, you're saying that the Anaconda was 1990. Are you sure it's that late? I feel like I saw that when I was a kid, and I was not a kid in 1990. Well, not as much of a kid anyway. I don't think I was looking at gun magazines in 1990, but maybe I was thinking of the Python, which is entirely possible. Interesting. Mateo, Colt Cobra is an even older model. I guess that makes sense. Is it the Cobra kind of goes back to, it's almost like the J frame, kind of the old detective revolvers, that sort of thing. I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong. But if that's the case, yeah, that would totally make sense because all those guys were carrying those revolvers back in the day. J Rob, it's a safety decocker. Okay. Safety decocker. So, okay, on my 226, if the hammer's back and I decock it, the decocker immediately comes back home and the hammer's back home as well, right? But it's not a safety. It's just a decocker. So you're saying that if you flip it down, or you're talking on the side on the slide, if that's the case, most Smiths actually do have that. That's very common with Smiths. If it's on the slide, you pull down, it decocks it, but then it stays down, right? And then you have to manually flip it back up for the trigger and the action to work. What I'm talking about is a frame decocker. Again, picture like a P229, P226, something like that, just your standard DASA models. they all had that kind of swiping decocker on it. Well, there are some Smiths that actually have that as well. Again, look up, and I think it's the 5928. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's one of them. But if that's the case, you look it up on Google and you will see that it's got that frame decocker. So they only made a few models like that on that, but they're out there if you can find them. Caleb Crockett, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Let's see. I'm not putting out videos anymore. Here we are, man. What are you talking about? We're still out there for sure. But I'm glad you joined us. I appreciate that. Mateo, yes, 1990s for the Anaconda. That is just crazy, man. That is absolutely crazy. I feel old. So it must have been the Python that I was looking at when I was a kid. I would assume. Mateo, based off of the Detective Special. Yeah, makes total sense. Yeah, I'd buy that. Lindy Toon, what's the next two pistols you know for a fact you are getting? Good question. So definitely the Daniel Defense H9. That's number one on the list. But I've still got the 365 AXG Legion on the list as well. And I think that's the OCD collector side of me because I've got the 226 X5 Legion and the 320 AXG Legion. So I feel like I have to complete the set on that because they're all essentially the same idea with that slide comp on it, that built-in comp. So those are the two for sure. If there was a third, I don't need it, but I kind of want the new Langdon PX4 Storm compact or maybe even a full size. That'd be fun. In fact, I've got my carry compact here right beside me. And it's still one of my favorite guns. I love the PX4. I don't know why people don't know more about them, but anyway, that would probably be a distant third on the list right now. How about you, Looney? How about everybody else? What are your next two firearms? That's a good question for the entire group. Let's see. Ohio, the first Colt snake gun was in 1911, the Rattler. Okay. All right. The Rattler. I like that. Pistol Beat, did someone say 1911? Oh, geez. Scott 79, the only modern Colt revolver I like is the Mark III Lawman, I believe. Okay, cool. Very cool. Now, what size is that, Scott? I'd be curious. What's the barrel length on that? Mateo, keep in mind, there was the Diamondback, sorry. And it had similar appearance to the Python, often dubbed the baby Python. Okay, yeah. So there, I'm sure that probably, and again, I was a kid. Of course, I mean, I don't know very much more now, but I certainly didn't know very much then. So I probably was just gawking at everything. I mean, another one that I thought was so cool was the Desert Eagle, especially like the gold ones and various things like that. Oh my gosh, I used to salivate over those things. These days, Desert Eagle I don't think would ever be on my roadmap personally. But again, back in the day, man, I thought they were so darn cool, especially with all the kind of wild and wacky things you could do with them. Yeah, I was easily entertained as a child. I want to know what other people have on their list, their shopping list over the next few months. I'd be very curious about that. How about any PDWs? Anybody have any pistol caliber carbines or anything like that on the roadmap? I'd be curious. Caleb would love to get a Dagger Micro. Let's see, that's the 43X upper from Palmetto with the built-in comp. Yes, I've seen those. They look very, very cool. I agree with you on that. They are a hot item right now. Just the micros in general. Each time I've gone out to Palmetto, just out of curiosity to look, they never have them. I've seen one come in to Centerfire through transfer, and it looked really good. I mean, we get so many daggers. We probably get more daggers than anything else in the shop, just via transfer. So yes, those look very, very cool. Palmetto, man, they continue to do cool things. I don't care what anyone says. I think they do some really neat things. So Caleb, I'm with you on that, 100%. Scott 79, pretty sure it was a 4-inch with 3/4 underlug at the end. It was cut at a weird angle. Okay, cool. It actually looks pretty nice. It's comparable to a Smith & Wesson Patrolman. Okay, very good. Thank you. Mateo, a couple of lever guns are on my list. Okay, excellent. Yeah, man, lever guns are making a bit of a comeback. Am I wrong about that? I mean, with Smith coming out with one there, and of course that's 44. I wonder if other manufacturers are going to be hopping on that bandwagon a little bit. Perhaps, if I had to guess, I bet we're going to see some other ones coming out. And I bet Smith will come out with some other ones. I'd like to see them do the 38 357 because that is just a hoot to suppress. 38 special suppressed. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's one of my favorite things to suppress. They are so quiet. They really, really are. Pistol Pete, I know a lot of people hate the 1911. Not every gun has to be ideal for carry or home defense. The 1911 is just an awesome machine. 100% agree, man. Yeah. I don't know why anyone would have an issue with 1911s. I really don't. I don't understand that. I mean, maybe it's because it doesn't fit a certain tactical cool factor. Fine. That's okay. But that doesn't mean it doesn't do its job, right? As long as you maintain it, it's going to do its job, especially if it's a quality one. I'm not trying to be on a soapbox or anything like that, but there is nothing wrong with the 1911. There really, really isn't. And quite frankly, I sort of I'm of the belief that you should have a 1911 in your collection. I mean, it's part of our heritage and history. And like you said, they are just incredible machines. They really are. Plus, learning the manual of arms, learning the intricacies of a 1911 and how to take them apart properly without the idiot scratch and all that. I mean, that's just part of it, right? It's a totally different experience than a Glock or something like that. And I think it's well worth diving into a little bit and getting some experience with that. Plus, they're just fun to shoot. Even 9mm 1911s are a lot of fun to shoot as well. It doesn't have to be 45, doesn't have to be 10mm or anything. There are other options as well. Hell, there are even some 380 options. I'm not sure I'd go with that, but there are other options as well. So yeah, again, soapbox over. There's just nothing wrong with a 1911 at all. I agree. Krabby Turtle, 5.7 pistol M&P or the PSA. Okay, is that on your list? I'm assuming. Is that what you're saying? Because yeah, those both fantastic. I would choose those over the FN any day of the week. And nothing wrong with the FN. I just think that some other ones have done made some good improvements ergonomically, if nothing else. That's all I'll say on that. Mateo, both the classic and the newer mag fed levers interest me. Okay, cool. Yeah, lever guns, man. And they're going to become a thing. They really are. Scott, thinking of picking up one of the micro daggers that has the porting on the side, like the SIG 365X macro. There you go. Yeah, another one. Yeah. So keep you guys, those of you who are looking for those micro daggers, keep me posted. Not that I'm looking for one, but just keep me posted if you get one. I'd be really curious about that because, again, I think they look really cool. Those ported ones look freaking awesome. Hopefully, Palmetto will be able to meet demand. They've done really well with the dagger. I think in the very beginning it was a little bit hard to get a hold of those, but by and large, you can jump out on the website and find pretty much what you want for daggers. So hopefully the micro will be the same. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Dan O'Neill, nothing wrong with the 1911. I agree. I totally agree. Ohio, I have a micro, love it with the normal barrel. I have a comp slide, but never shot it yet. Okay, fair enough. Is that the micro dagger, Ohio? You'll keep us posted. Be curious to know how that does with the comp and everything. I would imagine it would do fine. The comps that are part of the slide, they tend to just run a lot better than comps that you have to stick on to the end of the firearm. I think the pressure dynamics are a little bit different with the slide ones. Now, that probably also means that there isn't as much comping going on, if you will. But yeah, just in terms of reliability, at least from my experience, it's been much better. I mean, I had for a short while the 320 Spectre comp, and it had the tungsten frame and it had the comp on it and everything. It was a good looking gun. It really was. I had all sorts of reliability issues with that to a point where, and I even talked to SIG a couple of times and they wanted me to send it back. And I finally was just, no, I'm over it. It's not worth my time. And that's when I went to the AXG Legion, and I've been much happier with it. That thing is fantastic. That's kind of one of my go-to shooters. Let's see. Stevie saving up for the gun show in Tulsa or Tulsa. I'm assuming you meant Tulsa in April. It's a collector's dream. Okay, fair enough. Well, if you pick something up, you'll have to keep us posted. Mateo, eyeballing the Midwest Industries rails and skeletonized stocks for the R92. Nice, nice. Midwest Industry does a great job. They really do. I did the rails for, it was a Marlin, I think, 1894 CST. And I was very, very happy with that. Everything lined up fine. It looked great. So yeah, they do a good job. And then I think I've got a Midwest Industries. It's an S handguard for an AR pistol. So it kind of enshrouds the suppressor a little bit. It's a Yankee Hill. I think it's a T2 on that one. And yeah, I think it looks fantastic. It's a little bit fat, but I think it looks cool enshrouding the suppressor a little bit. Now, that does mean I can't take the suppressor off and shoot it without the suppressor. Unfortunately, I would blow the handguard apart. It's the price you pay, but I still like that quite a bit. Let's see, Ohio. I want a lever 357. Not sure if I want a Winchester pattern or the Marlin style. I think you'd be happy either way. Just get a threaded barrel if you can, and get a suppressor for it. You'll thank me later. Looney Tune. Well, I bought 6 pistols in the last 2 weeks. My goodness, that's a lot. Shadow 2 Compact, M&P Competitor. Wow. Ronin, Emperor 4. Okay, cool. G22, LCR 38 Special. Wow. P10C FDE. My gosh. The next pistol will absolutely be the Platypus. It's a laser beam. Okay, fair enough. Well, that's a lot. But that's very, very cool. Your safe is enjoying things right now. So yeah, when you get the Platypus, man, keep us posted. I would definitely be curious. All right, got to get caught up here. Steve B, Scott, be careful. CZs are habit forming. Well, yes, they are. Scott, yeah, I knew, Scott, you had quite a few. Yeah, CZs really can be habit forming, no doubt about that. I need to go back with the 97. That's a little bit of a hole in the collection right now, unfortunately. Channel Cat Chaser, oh my gosh, blast from the past, man. Hope you're well. It's good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Let's see, Jacob Me, you got any rich and rare guns? I don't know what a rich gun is. Do I have any rare guns? Nothing terribly rare, nothing that anybody would want to like blow up the house to get to by any stretch. What is kind of rare? Maybe my Beretta 86. They're not terribly rare, but they're a little bit harder to come by, and when you do, they're pretty expensive. Just because they didn't make as many. It's not that they're anything extraordinary, but they anytime you've got lower volumes, they're going to go for a little bit more, especially if they're in good shape. And I lucked out. I got one that was used, but it was essentially flawless. So I've put maybe 5 rounds through it just to make sure it worked that one time, and I've not shot it since. That's why I got that Gearson, the MC14T, just so I could have a version of it that I could really shoot and beat up and not care about. So that Beretta, to me, is kind of a rare gun, at least for my collection. But just in terms of the general atmosphere, you can almost always go on Gunbroker and find one. Just be prepared to pay for it because they are expensive. But they are really cool guns. That it's the Cheetah with the flip barrel on it. So very different than any of the other Cheetahs. So it's going to be reminiscent of like a Tomcat or a Bobcat, something like that. So that's it. That's probably not very exciting, Jacob, but that's probably as good as I've got. Nothing else kind of leaps out in my mind, to be quite honest with you. I guess rare guns, any of the P80s that I built, they're not great, but I guess they're rare because they're one of a kind. I built them, so they're not very good. But anyway, that would be about it. Pistol Pete, let's see. Locke makes the aluminum palm swell grips for the CZ75, and they mimic the shape of the CZ factory grips. They're very nice. Yeah, I like the thinner grips. I like more of a 1911 style grip in my hand. Just to be honest. So I like the thin checkered grips. I even like the Veloce. I think that's how you pronounce them. I like those. Now, those you can only get on certain guns, like Beretta 92s. I've got some for my Beretta 81, actually. But those are pretty good. And then they've got one that's kind of it's not the grenade pattern, but it's almost like a crisscross pattern, and they're relatively thin as well. So I don't mind those. But the thin checkered is pretty much what I have on any of my CZs, and I thoroughly enjoy them. But regardless, Lock, they are the grip manufacturer out there. They really are. They've kind of dominated the market, and rightly so. I did a lot of work with them back in the day, and was very proud to do so. Their product was fantastic, and they were so much fun to work with. Just cool people that love what they do, love the industry, love 2A, all that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. I promise you. No affiliation, certainly anymore, but they're just good people. So I still, in fact, when I re-picked up the OD Green PO1, I bought some lock grips, and yes, I paid for them, but it was well worth it. I had no problem with that at all. I went with the FDE thin checkered grips. I think they look fantastic on it. So anyway, lock grips, man. There's my plug for them. Dan O'Neill, odd thing about 10 millimeter 1911, more recoil than a G20 Glock. I thought it would be less, 5-inch versus 4.5. Likely higher velocity from the 1911 Kimber, tighter. Okay, interesting, very interesting. Huh. Caleb, hey KS, which would you pick, CZ75 or the P226? That's a very unfair question, Caleb, because I like both of them. I hate it when you guys ask me stuff like that. When you know it's stuff that I love, that's a really tough question, because the CZ75 has a wonderful history. Goes back to 75. It's a good year. But the 226 and all of the other iterations, all of the P2 numbers are fantastic as well. I've got one of most in the collection, and love those dearly. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I would probably go CZ75 if I had to choose. But I will tell you, I really wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to get rid of any of those firearms from either family at all. I think they're fantastic for a variety of different reasons. So very unfair, but fantastic question, Caleb. Thank you very much for that. Rhoda, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, my friend. It's been a very long time. I love seeing old faces, old names on here. Hopefully you can continue to join. Miss seeing you out there. So I'm glad to be back, my friend. Glad to be back. Cron Daily too. Well, thank you very much, man. Really appreciate the super chat. That was very nice of you. What kind of gum? Fug gum. I don't know what that means. Hopefully that's not spam out there. Hopefully. Scott 79, Gearson is making the 380 like that Beretta. Yeah. That's the MC14T. Unless there's another one. If there's another one, let me know. But I know they've got the 14T, and that's going to be that Beretta 86 clone. Vanessa Kitty, good to see you. Very good to see you, my friend. Steve B, my rarest gun is it's a Winchester model 12 and 28 gauge. It costs a lot, very few made. Wow, that's very cool. And I got to admit, kind of like 380, I love 28 gauge. It's actually a lot of fun. Shooting trap with 28 gauge, or even sporting clays with 28 gauge is a lot of fun, and actually a little bit of a challenge as well. Just because there's a little bit less meat going out there, but perfectly capable. They're just a lot of fun. They are. That's a cool shotgun, man. Congratulations. Very cool. Let's see, Dan. They are both good. Not bad recoil. Okay. Cool. Krabby Turtle. Hey, Vanessa. Hey, Turtle. Let's see, Scott 79. That's an easy answer. CZ70, way better ergonomics. Now, you see, Scott, that's where I'm sort of torn. I think they're both good. They're good in different ways, right? But I think both, and it's probably why I collect both. I enjoy them. They feel good in the hand. They're fun to shoot, that sort of thing. So for me, it's a really tough choice. It really is. And both of them have a cool factor. Both of them have a practical factor. I mean, the 75, there's so many different models of the 75. And of course, the P series, you got a pile of those as well. So that's just a really tough question. I don't know. Mateo, I wish Locke would do more revolver grips. Yeah, I would love some minimal combat grips for my King Cobra. Yeah, I understand. I don't know, man. You send them a message. Tell them they need to do that. They actually are pretty receptive to new ideas, so you never know. Rhoda, what do you think of the new Bull Armory Axe FS hatchet? It looks like the most complete Glock clone out there and a little less money than the Shadow systems. I haven't experienced any of the Bull Glock clones, and I'll call them clones, but yeah, whatever. Glock clones. There's the hatchet and the tomahawk, I think, is another one. 1776 Robust does have one of them. I think it's the tomahawk. I think. Don't quote me on that. But he likes his. But again, I don't have any experience, but I think they look really, really cool. And Bull Armory they're coming along as a pretty big name these days. And I think that's largely because they put out a good product, good quality product at a reasonable price, depending on your level, of course. I mean, some of their stuff is pretty expensive, but when you compare to other things on the market, they're actually pretty reasonable. They're harder to come by a little bit. Anytime I'm out there on Gunbroker and I look for Bull Armory, I will find their CZ75 clones a lot. And then occasionally the Glock clones, various sorts of them, but rarely ever the 1911s or 2011 style firearms. Or if I do, I might come across one or two like the SAS or something like that, but not as many. But yeah, without having any experience with them, I don't have a problem with Bull Armory whatsoever. Just from what I've heard and from what friends have told me, they've had great experiences. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking at one, it might be worth checking out. Channel Cat Chaser, any of the glued pythons came through yet? I have not seen any, no. Not at Centerfire yet. I at least not well. I've been there. It's entirely possible there's been one that's come by. I'll check tomorrow. But I have not personally seen one. I've seen quite a few of the stainless new versions come through, but not the blued ones that I know of. Steve B, another vote for CZ75 all day. Boy, you guys are ganging up on SIG right now, which is fine. That's okay. Let's see. Mateo put a blued python on order. Nice. Ohio Christopher, 226 family has a long of a trigger reach for too long of a trigger reach for me. Stubby fingers. You could do the short trigger reach trigger if you want to. So that option is out there, believe it or not. Caleb, I only asked because eventually I'd like both to fill out my 9mm staples. I've already got the G17 and the high power, so probably will do the CZ75 variant next, then eventually a P226. Well, yeah, I mean, if that's what you're trying to do, I would definitely grab a 75. Of course, there's so many different flavors, so it's going to depend on what you're after for that. I mean, I usually suggest to people, if it's not designated as a carry gun so much as just a gun to enjoy, the SPO1 or the CZ75, either one of those are fantastic. I prefer the SPO1 family or line, so the SPO1 and the PO1 rather than like the CC75 and the PCR or the compact, but they're all good. But that would be my recommendation there. And then 226 or 229 would be my recommendation on the SIG side. So yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either, to be honest with you. Pistol Pete said the P226 SAO, they're fantastic as well. I sort of feel like having that experience with the DASA is a great entrance into that, and then doing the SAO. Of course, the budget dependent, of course, but the 226 SAO triggers, especially on the Legions, are incredible. The reset, if you've ever experienced one of those, that is 2011 reset right there. It is as short as any 2011 out there. Truly is. So they are very, very good. Probably not as light as a 2011, a good quality one, but still very, very good. So, but yeah, Caleb, you can't go wrong with any one of them. It's just a matter of dialing into the model that you want. But yeah, they're either way. I think you're going to be happy if you can find a rental range that has one of each and try them out. See which one makes sense to go first. Ohio, rarest gun is the 1943 Trials M44 Mosin single lug bayonet mount. Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Scott, rarest gun is probably my 1935 FN Peruvian Mauser. My gosh, you guys have some really cool guns. You're much cooler than my Beretta 86. Let's see. Actually, as I think about it, so I've got an old, and again, this is not valuable by any stretch. They probably are on Gunbroker for a few $100s, but to me, it's extremely rare and valuable. It was the first gun I ever shot. First rifle I ever shot. It's an old Winchester 22 bolt action, just a single round only. Again, very basic, very plain, but the thing still shoots and shoots really well. It's still incredibly accurate. Just those old circle sights, nothing fantastic at all on it. And the thing, I mean, it's got some wear and tear on it because, again, I shot it when I was a kid in the backyard suburbs of Kansas City, Missouri. Times have changed a lot, by the way. A little kid shooting a 22 in a backyard with his grandfather. But I have that rifle. I still have that. So to me, that's sorry guys, that's exceptionally rare. So I love that firearm very much. And again, anybody else that looked at it would be like, I'll give you $5 for it. And maybe that's what it's worth. I don't know. But to me, it's priceless, of course. Beretta 9mm, what's going on, man? Wow, gosh, it's been a long time. It's good to see you. It's good to see you. If it's senior or junior, I don't know, but either way, I hope both of you are happy and healthy. Really glad to see you back, KS, even if just in live format. Hope you've been well, brother. Beretta 9 USA. Well, listen, man, I hope you're well also, you and the family. That's fantastic. It's really cool to see you. It's so much fun to see some old faces coming back. This is awesome. Rhoda, the only rare gun I have is a CZ P10 F45 ACP. Love it. That's funny. I saw another one of those the other day, but they, I understand, are actually kind of hard to come by. Somebody told me about that. They were transferring one in, and they were like, "Yeah, it's in 45." And at first I want to be like, "No, it's not. It's a 9mm, dude." But I stopped myself, thankfully, because I would have looked very stupid. And I was taught a lesson. It sure enough was a 45. So yeah, that's really cool. No shame in that at all. If you can find a threaded barrel for it, throw a threaded barrel and a suppressor on that thing, make it quiet. You'll enjoy it. Let's see. Hurt One. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Sorry, late to the show. Got hung up at work. It's all good, man. It's all good. I'm still looking for that thing, by the way. That's on the top of my list, just so you know. And I've got the other guys looking for it as well. So we'll see what we can do. Dan, fan of the DASA SIGs. I think they're the most safe and offer second strike on bad ammo. Yeah, I mean, they are certainly safe. Any of the double action, single action, I kind of wanted to pick up the PX4 and show you, but obviously we can't do that. But being able to, put your thumb on the hammer, like keep your finger off the trigger, thumb on the hammer, just kind of that extra control, especially if you've got appendix holster or anything like that, just so you know that there's nothing going on with the trigger. So yes, they are definitely very safe, Dan, for sure. Steve, my last SIG was a 322. It was a problem child. It loaded up the barrel in 30 rounds. It let it up the barrel. I'm so sorry. 3 trips back to SIG. I finally had it back by then. Yeah, you had them buy it back. Oh my gosh. I'm surprised they would actually buy it back. I didn't even know they would do that. But 22s. There's always a little bit of a gamble there. Usually when somebody's looking for a 22 and there's not a designated purpose other than shooting and having a little bit of fun, I typically try and send them down the road of Ruger, like the Mark IVs. We generally have the most luck with those. And ironically, we also have a lot of good luck with the Glock 44s. Those are training firearms for us, for new shooters. And we rarely ever have issues with them, and they're almost never down. So that's pretty good testament to Glock. And I know other people have had issues with those, so don't take what I'm saying as gospel. But we've had good luck with those and tremendous luck with Mark IVs. So those are a really good option. I've got a Mark IV Lite, and then I've got one that's kind of cut up a little bit. That is just specifically a suppressor host. In fact, the entire barrel is the suppressor, more or less. And I've had a great time with both of those. So Mateo, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Take care. We'll hang for another minute or two and then probably call it. I'm about ready. Caleb, I've shot the FNX 9 and actually really like it, but I just want the 75 or 226 for the history. Other one eventually I'd like to have for myself is a 92 FS, but personally hate it, but it's a staple. I actually love Berettas. I mean, I'm a Beretta collector as well. So you've really hit three of the four firearm families that I collect. So I like them all. You're kind of speaking my language regardless of any of the three of those. But I actually like the 92 as well. I've got a Langdon Tactical 92 Compact that I love. It's a lot of fun. Now it's a little, obviously, it's got some extra horsepower with the Langdon stuff in it, the trigger job and everything. But even those 92 X's are actually pretty good. The 92 FS, probably some work you'll want to do on it, but they're actually really easy to work on. So hopefully that'll work out well for you. Let's see, Scott, it was on Gunbroker earlier, and I saw that there's a Whitney Wolverine listed. I want my damn space gun, even if it's in 22. A Whitney Wolverine. You guys go down rabbit holes that I did not know existed. That's really funny. Let's see. Caleb, I love my Browning Buckmark. That's another really good one for sure. Let's see. I let the wife put 1,000 rounds through it in one range trip. Yeah. As long as they stay somewhat clean, any of your Brownings and your Rugers are going to do really, really well. Rhoda, by far my favorite 22 is the Taurus TX22 Compact. I love that gun so much. I would carry it for self-defense. Fair enough. I haven't heard very many bad things about the Taurus at all. I think that's largely a lot like the Glock 44, at least from our experience at Centerfire. So that would be another one that would be a good trainer, or in the event you had to, self-defense, what have you. But yeah, I've heard good things about the TX22. I have not personally shot one, but yeah. Let's see. Caleb, I just have small hands, so the grip on the 92 never feels comfortable. Okay, that makes sense. Well, guys, here's the thing. I mean, gosh, this has been a fantastic crowd, and it's been so much fun talking with everyone. More and more people are joining, so this is great. Obviously, we're going to keep doing this. But I want you guys to go and have a fantastic night. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and your weekend. Drive fast, be bad, but be safe, of course. But you guys, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate that. And we will definitely do this again, probably 2 weeks from now. So about every 2 weeks is when I try and do this. So again, you guys, thank you very much. And we will talk to you later. Take care.